I always tell in my teams, one, AI should be the last resort. If you can solve a problem without AI, nothing like it. Absolutely nothing like it. Go for it only as a last resort. And even when you're applying AI, you should always keep the Occam's razor in mind, which is simpler is
Absolutely.
better,
Absolutely.
right? If you
Yeah.
can get a job done from a regex or a bunch of rules or a logistic regression, nothing like it.
Yeah.
No need to bring in the LLM, right? You should bring in the bigger machinery, the bigger firepower, only when everything else is failing. And that again have to be the last resort, even within that.
Yeah. I think you talked about, you alluded to one of the core principles I think that everyone should be following in any product being built, which is the Occam's razor, where it's basically go for the simplest, least number of assumptions based solution, especially when you're starting off, right? Because otherwise you are adding too many complexities, and if things don't go the way you want it to go, you've either set the wrong expectations or you don't know how to do the root cause. So go with the simplest approach first, gradually bring in the complexity.
Right. And that also means that you will have to do a lot of experimentation
Yeah,
where
yeah,
you start from the simpler, you gradually keep on increasing the complexity until you get to the goal. You
yeah.
can't
And
just
this,
say I'll use the LLM as a first approach
no,
and then
cannot.
stop over there.
And this is probably also where it's one of the things where most people have to realize, and as product managers you have to realize, building an AI product is different from building a typical software product, because a software product can be estimated. It is known now, it can be estimated because we've lived through it for decades, right? So we have a fairly good sense. Okay, if you have to build this thing, so many story points, da 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 da, predictability is there. If you are again using an LLM from an endpoint perspective, to some extent the certainty is there, because again it's a black box. But I'll give you an example. So we've kind of come up with a fairly innovative way of reducing the size of the prompt, which is the instructions that you give to the LLM, mainly because we wanted to reduce the latency, reduce the cost, tokens cost a lot. Also, we wanted to improve its accuracy, because longer prompts actually lead to a lot of confusion. So we said, okay, let's try and make this as compact as possible. So we said we come up with something called dynamic prompt assembly, where you on the fly understand what the intent is. You kind of come up, you compose the prompt at runtime, and you're
Hmm.
basically then kind of sending out only the most optimized prompt to the LLM.
Sure.
Now, this it took us at least, from an iteration perspective, it took us around 12 iterations to get it to the right level of accuracy. Why? Because we are trying out something new. This is going to be the case for most of the places where you're trying out something new, especially in the AI space. So you cannot, with a high degree, say, hey, we're going to do 3 iterations and we'll get this right, and so therefore you commit to those milestones. You have to almost, when you are experimenting with these kind of things, you have to have a plan A and a plan B from a product perspective. get to the get to the business outcome with the most simple, less complicated piece. Might not be the most optimized, deliver the business outcome. In parallel, have this experimentation path running, and then once you have this running, suddenly you're able to get your 3x 4x benefit that you decided on why you wanted to kind of do this. So that's another where typical software products or product managers approach for a typical software product should vary from an AI perspective. There is an element of uncertainty. Those expectations need to be set with the stakeholders as well.
Absolutely. Right. And what you're saying here is get to the V0, launch it, right? While that is taking its own life, start working on the experimentation part, right?
Exactly.
Where you're trying to now get to the V1 or the V2 and so on and so forth,
Yeah, because
right?
there is
And
no certainty that your V0 is going to be quick and it's going to do exactly what you want to do it. It's a question of getting the model right. Even if and especially so if you're trying to fine tune a model, you don't know what is going to happen. So yeah, de-risk.
absolutely.